Hey, welcome to the MedBix Webcast. Uh, just a BK, just hold on 1 minute, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the MedBix Webcast. I don't know what happened to my graphics video, intro video. I can't find it. It's something strange happening here. So, technical stress. We need to have a we need really doctors for that. Actually, special doctors for technical stress. Welcome to the MedBix Webcast. I have a very interesting guest today joining from London, England. Okay, a fantastic guest. Actually, she is a storyteller through games and science and a regular storyteller. You know, I was studying physics. I was studying actually mathematics and physics and chemistry in school. So one day I heard that Newton called Isaac Newton, where Anna is from, his guest is from England. He called the Leibniz, he called him bitch. you know, so I was fascinated. Why he's calling Isaac Newton, a scientist like that, calling is a contemporary and his opponent is a kind of a competitor, calling him bitch. So I was very interested in learning about it. So I studied calculus, I studied Newton physics, then another experiment that integrated me more in physics side is Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein imagined that if I am sitting on the photon particle, what would be the life of the world looks like? It should stationary because other light should standing wave. It should stand because you're traveling with a photon. Everything should be standing wave because you're if your two trains are going same speed, you can't tell the difference. There is a standing, right? Parallel, two trains going. Same thing. The photon is sitting there, and then light should be the same. But what he found out is interesting. It is not. Maxwell equations, and the physics tells you the light cannot stay static. It has to be dynamic. So then he changed the whole thing, and the relativity theory came in, and then see constant speed is always the speed of light, irrespective of the frame you're in. Whether you go 100 miles, 200 miles, uh, billion miles per hour, the speed of light is going to be still there for them. Doesn't matter. So that's what he found out. So, but anyway, thank you for joining. The Anna Blewden is a very interesting woman. I met her, maybe party time someplace. you know, I tell you, she has a bachelor's in biochemistry. She has a very interesting combination. She was she's a middleweight champion. Can kick my ass. So I don't want to mess with her. And then she is actually amazing woman, entrepreneur, and she's let me introduce you. She's trying to do virtual reality, and then she wants to create a gaming through the virtual reality. She tells the storytelling through the VR and then AR, augmented reality, virtual reality. Let me bring Anna Broden to the table. Let me let me introduce you. Anna, welcome to the MedBix webcast. Anna,
Hi, thank you very much. Yeah, it's great to be here.
can you give a very interesting? I met you by chance. We had a good drink, but let me ask you a question. But give me your background a little bit. I cover a little bit here and there, but if you give me your journey up to why you are so much passionate about starting this company called DNA with the games with the DNA.
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, thanks for the intros. Definitely hyped me up. But yeah, you got all the key points there. So as you said, I've got a background in science. I did my bachelor's degree at the University of Bath. It was in natural sciences, but I majored in biochemistry because I guess it always that was the side of science that interested me the most. The sort of science I could see the process happening, as opposed to something like physics, which I always struggled to kind of get the abstract concepts there. So that's where you and I differ, I think. But yeah, so I got my degree, and I actually had a brief time in the pharmaceutical industry. where I did some marketing, and that kind of took the science knowledge I had and applied it a bit more practically. But I, as you mentioned, kind of dabbled in a few other things. I worked for the government for a couple of years doing investigation, and ended up or studying for a master's degree in VR and AR programming, just because I thought it was interesting. I wanted a bit more of a challenge.
I didn't know that there is a master's degree in AR VR programming. I think
Mm,
there's a lot of interest. Maybe people
yeah.
should know. Where did you study that one?
So that was at Goldsmiths, University of London.
Okay,
It was a very new degree, but I think it will only continue to become more popular. Um,
it's a very
yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, and it kind of took the analytical approach that I had sort of used throughout my education and sort of turned it towards tech, because I thought, you know what, I want to pursue a career in tech now. I think there's so much interesting stuff that can be done, whether it's games or like augmented reality, like wearables, or just kind of anything that VR and AR can change in our world. So I ended up in games, but I still do a lot of VR stuff as well, and set up this studio, Games with DNA, to kind of take my own ideas and turn them into something real.
Games are it's a kind of a storytelling, right? Game is like choices, and the player has a choices, and then diversifying the choices, and like a tree kind of structure.
Mm,
So
absolutely.
these choices, how do you imagine those choices in your brain? What comes to you, and the choices to think about?
Yeah, well, I love storytelling. I think everything has a story. I think even kind of user experience design on an app tells a story, depending on what you're doing and where you're trying to go. So I like to see everything kind of planning out, and so yeah, when in terms of this game that I'm working on, it's a narrative game, so it's very story heavy. It's very based on the player's choices and what they want to do and where they want to go. And I mean, it does help to kind of map these things out visually and draw an actual diagram showing the different branches of helping
Tell,
you
tell us,
visualize.
can you give me a synopsis of that game, that the game you're building?
Of course, yeah. So the game's called Love and Fool's Gold. It's it's a bit of a genre blending game. It's Wild West, so it's a Western theme. It's also narrative. It's got a bit of romance. It's got a bit of mystery in it. So you play as someone who's arriving in this town in the Wild West, and there's something suspicious going on in this town, and you meet some characters, and you have to choose which characters you trust, and you want to help explore this mystery. And things get a bit dark, things get a bit complicated, a bit confusing, and there's different endings based on your choices. So if you successfully get to the bottom of the mystery, then you get the good ending, and if you fail and you don't get on with the person that you choose to investigate with, then you get the bad ending. So it's kind of very personalized storytelling, which I think that's what really appeals to me about games, the
It's like
personalization.
a bad boy versus good boy, or what is
Yeah, yeah. Well,
that?
yeah, that's the romance element of it for sure.
Yeah.
Because why not
So
throw a bit of romance into everything?
yeah, but that's a let me ask you, the programming part of it is same, right? Either science or storytelling, law, or anything,
Mm,
choices, making choices, and exploring the choices
mm,
what you make, right?
mm.
That is a central theme of the all these games, right?
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's like making a hypothesis based on the information that you have, and yeah, the you've only got a certain amount of knowledge at any one point, but you have to make an informed choice based on that. So that's definitely a scientific approach. You're right.
So how do you immerse yourself before you build this game about the characters, right? There are characters there play
Mm,
different things. You have a good guys, you have a tattoo. I can see. You can be a bad girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So, how do you think about bad things? What did the people do? What are the good things you do? So, this is
Ah,
like an interplay. Tell us a little bit about that. You were exploring that aspect of
mm.
describing the players.
Yeah, well, I've always loved stories in every form. I love reading. I love writing. I love films, games. I think I always did have that kind of side of me that wanted to do something creative. So I easily get lost in sort of daydreaming about ideas and stories and characters. So um, yeah, I'm not even sure how I would say I sort of come about coming up with a story. It seems to kind of, the idea comes to me and it's out of my hands by then. I just kind of follow follow where the story takes me. Um, it's sort of a
Yeah,
flow
no,
state.
you're in England, and how is the your entrepreneur? Tell me a little bit about startup scene in England and London, particularly. How the startup scene looks? Are there any accelerator incubators you can
Mm,
get funding? What is that process? Just for outside people from Silicon Valley and other in
mm,
the United States, people to
sure.
understand.
I mean, it's certainly not quite the level that Silicon Valley is, unfortunately, not yet at least. There are, I mean, there's a lot of startup activity over here. There's a lot of people, particularly in tech, that um, do very interesting, new, innovative things. And there are some sort of tech grants. So even with games and sort of less traditional immersive tech experiences, so AR and VR would fall under that. There's some government grants to help you create prototypes, and with that sort of initial investment, you can then reach out to um, yeah, I don't know, angel investors or publishers that might invest a bit more. Because at the end of the day, it costs money to get all of these developers on board and to map a long project out. It takes several months and if not years to
Yeah.
sort of get a workable prototype a lot of the time.
It's a very painful experience everywhere, even
Mm,
in Silicon Valley. I've been here. It's not easy to even. You have to have a. You have to keep going. And that that passion and that. The problem is, in my view, just I want to side comment on it. It's not may not be related to you. Most of the times, people like you that came from science background, you have came from a stellar background in science and mathematics, but a lot of people who come to these backgrounds and these people who make a lot of noises, 90% of them are really not qualified. They make a lot of noise. That noise, you have to go out of the noise. It is a little challenging itself. So
yeah,
that is the biggest challenge, even for me. And with all the contacts I have, still you have to struggle through this process of people
yeah.
mixing a lot of noises.
Totally. And I think social media makes it easy for the people who are good at making noise to make even more noise. So you really do have to sort of put yourself out of your comfort zone a lot of the time if you want to be cutting above that noise. So it's uncomfortable, but yeah, it's necessary, I think.
It is not your field, but I'm going to ask you a little bit about that. Virtual reality is your field, but virtual reality related to mental health. What
Mm,
is that? What is that people are talking about? Because the visual channels are occupied, and I would see what I see is by doing a mathematics itself, by looking at the virtual reality. 80% of visual channels are occupied and they
mm,
come down very quick. If you put a EEG on them, you can see that their beta waves go to alpha waves. So tell
mm,
us that journey, why virtual reality is such a powerful tool nowadays we have.
mm. Well, it's such an interesting topic, actually, because there's so many factors within virtual reality that really kind of challenge how you process things around you. And I guess it makes sense when you think of it from the perspective of humans didn't evolve to be able to distinguish something like virtual reality from reality. So when you're wearing this headset, you can hear this 3D space sound, audio, and everything that you see, no matter what direction you look at, is sort of reacting to your movement. It's very, very difficult for the brain to be able to distinguish that from real life. Even though you know you're wearing a VR headset, there's obviously a lot of your brain that just thinks it's real. So when you're trying these immersive experiences, like there's one famous one where you're kind of walking off a plank on the top of a building, and you have to jump off the plank. And there's some really funny footage of people doing this and falling to the floor or like crashing into their TV screen because they feel like they're really falling through the air, even though they're standing in their living room. So when you apply that to something like mental health, there's so much that you can do because you can, like you said about the sort of brain waves, you can trick part of your brain into feeling calm, just like sort of meditation effectively does that. You're able to ground yourself a bit more and just switch off the stream of consciousness, and being able to have control over what you hear and see can help you sort of switch off that noise. And yeah, there's a lot of potential, I think, for VR to transform the mental health space.
We have a flashy name here in Silicon Valley. It's called consciousness hacking. Hacking.
Yes, yes, that's
Yeah,
a very,
they do very strong words
very
here.
Silicon Valley. Yeah,
The Silicon
yeah.
Valley thing. Let me. So you're asking, you're saying that that brain has such a, you can deceive the brain, seeing that, and is computationally busy, so it becomes a calm down in that sense. So let me, what about it? What is the difference between a VR and virtual reality and augmented reality? What is exactly the differences between them?
So with augmented reality, it's the real world, but information or user interface is augmented on top of that. So you're still present in the real world, but you have additional information that's being kind of overlaid. Whereas virtual reality is completely separate. So you can't see anything in the real world when you've got this VR headset on. And as technology improves, you get the boundaries between AR and VR a bit blurred, so it kind of contradicts that definition. So a lot of studios are just referring to it in general as extended reality or XR rather than AR or VR, and you get the sort of the HoloLens and all of these new wearable headsets that can sort of switch between AR and full VR. So I think the definition is increasingly less important as technology changes, but that's the general the general
Yeah.
definition.
Have you ever thought about the VR, the influence of the yoga, meditation, yoga, those kind of things? Have you ever experienced that kind of meditation techniques through the VR?
Yeah, so I personally I love meditation. I've dabbled in it throughout the years. I definitely need to get back into a more regular routine. But when I was doing my master's at Goldsmiths, one of my projects was actually a VR meditation experience. So I was focusing on guided meditation, but using 3D sound, because I think VR is so effective in using that. It's kind of an underutilized aspect of the technology. So by sitting in a sort of virtual room, and you focus on where you hear the sounds and what the sounds are, and that can help you ground yourself and sort of disconnect from these pesky thoughts a little bit.
One of the challenges, Anna, is that these are heavy sets. I wear a lot of them. They're very heavy. How do you? Or is there any technologies improving? We are getting a lighter ones, much easier. And then, what are the side effects of that? Some people have this headaches and dizziness. So, tell us a little bit about that. Just it's not. There's a much more good effects and side.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, I've got this. This is the Quest 2, which is
let's do. I have the
very
same thing.
chunky. Yeah, and it's very uncomfortable as well. I think the design can definitely be improved, and it has been improved. Because, like you said, it's very heavy. The straps are very uncomfortable. I know they're balancing it out now with their sort of physical design, but when it comes to people getting headaches or particularly motion sickness, that is a big blocker. I think that's something that's really stopped VR from having sort of mainstream adaptation, really.
So Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook CEO, is saying that he wants to combine the virtual world and the real world, combine a metaverse. He's talking about. Just what is that metaverse? Actually, people don't know. The doctors, particularly doctors, don't know what it is. What
Yeah,
what is that actually?
I think if you ask different people, you get different answers. Back in when I graduated from my master's, it was 2022, and the term metaverse was still very big, and a lot of companies were kind of reframing their strategy based around the idea of this metaverse, but no one could really define what it was. Some people would say it's being in VR is being in a metaverse, but then you get some other companies who use the term metaverse without referencing VR at all, and they just talk about kind of extended community almost in a virtual space, whether that's just an app or an online community. So yeah, I think it really depends on the context of the sector, but it's kind of what you want it to be, really. I think it's still yet to be defined.
I'm going to inject a little bit of physics here. One of the things is that I found out is virtual reality. When you're doing with the Wi-Fi, this what do you call with the hands? When you put a virtual, you create a hyperspace a room with hyperspace. It simulates hyperspace. So that means when you leave one place, you never reach the same place again. Even
Mm,
though it's a couple of steps different, the situation is so much. So the possibilities are unlimited in the mind and the body, the movement itself. You cannot repeat the same movement a second time. It is
mm,
exponentially gets complex every time you take this step. That is one of the things I found out the mathematics of it. You're also, like, you're before you stuck love struck. You want to do a lot of science, science videos, science things. He did a biochemistry, and then you did a VRA or programming mathematics. He did.
mm,
So how do you combine this interdisciplinary? One of my favorite field is that I always listen about polymaths. Polymaths is
mm.
always my. I consider even Newton and all those people are polymath. One of the women, Emily de Chatelet, is one of my favorite women. She is a true polymath.
Mm.
So you remind me her in a way such that.
Thank
So
you.
tell me a little bit about this. You combine apparently from outsiders look at different fields, biochemistry, VR, AR, and then in mathematics and in middleweight championship in the fightings, all of them. How do you see that as a one plane?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to like personality type. It's like I've always liked the scientific approach to things, to problems, and to even relationships. I think I love logic, and that's kind of why I gravitated towards a degree in science. And I think I'd still apply the same scientific approach to what I do in sort of design and storytelling, because I think everything needs a good attention to detail, for example, and a strong hypothesis and a strong plan and strategy. So I guess if I was trying to reverse engineer why I chose a science degree to kind of set me up for this stuff, that would probably be why. But yeah, I think I definitely would like to see those kind of the starting point in science and where I am now. I'd like to see that aligning a bit more at some point, whether that's making a game about a scientist or exploring some themes like that. Because I think there's a lot of potential that games and storytelling can have in education.
So I'm in Silicon Valley. Everybody talks about. Yeah, I met you in San Francisco
Mm,
actually.
yeah.
So I wanted to ask you that. Everybody talks, even as taxi drivers, even the guy who delivers food talks about artificial intelligence. What is
Mm.
the state of the artificial intelligence in the gaming industry?
Yeah, it's a tricky question to answer because it's already caused quite an upset in at least in sort of employment terms. I think AI is going to transform everything, and it's already started to transform the gaming industry because with obviously AI can help people program. It can potentially replace programmers because you can, I don't know, you can get ChatGPT to write your line of code. So there's companies that are thinking that they can just wipe out entire teams of developers because they can have one or two people using AI tools to write programs for them, which is not very it's not very wise at this stage, I think. But then on the other side of that, you've got the creative potential of AI, with generative AI making art and images and photos and music, and kind of already seeing a replacement of people in those lines of work, unfortunately, which I think is a shame, because as amazing as these tools are and as helpful as they are, and I use a lot of AI tools myself for just, I don't know, productivity, and there's tons of great tools out there. But when it comes to human creativity, that's kind of where the soul comes in. When you watch a good film, it's not AI that comes up with a story like that. It's a real human that's lived things and thought about it and reflected on it in their own personal way. And I think as closely as AI can try to replicate that, they'd always be missing that soul.
I can promise you, no one can replace Anna. Yeah, Yana, I'm going to talk about a little bit. When there is a three dots there on your side, if you can see the left side, you can put your website or anything that you want to do right next to your name. There is a three dots there, and if you can change, put your name, or I can do that for you if you give me that your name. Before that, I'm going to present a topic on you, and that is a topic on a British woman, very interesting woman. I'm going to talk about that, and then you can comment on it. So it is when I met you, you said something interesting for me. Is that, do you know Rosalind Parkland? You asked me that. That is a very interesting story. So I'm going to bring you side on the side. We'll see in the side there. Okay, you can watch and you can jump in anytime. You know more about England than me. So I tell you, this is the story of an extraordinary woman born in the long time ago. But let me give you a little bit of background about her. You know, that's Anna Blewden. She's joining from London, England. You know, Sheila LeBlanc she's from Redland, California. What she was holding a picture. That's photo of somebody is a guy, person from the Second World War. That's from England, Second World War. She lives in Redlands, California. I spoke with their daughter actually. Let me tell you what the picture is. That is a picture of first patient treated with the penicillin. He was the first patient. He is in England. Albert Alexander, his name. He was a police officer a constable in England, London. He was treated. He's a police constable near Oxford. He was treated with the first he got whatever in this. He was injured in the Second World War, so he got some infection on the face. Then they want they so they wanted he is the first person who got the treatment from penicillin. I'm going to tell you why that I'm talking about. So penicillin was Alexander Fleming, a microbiologist, invented discovered the penicillin, the mold that cured the disease, that kills the bacteria, pathogens. But he could not able to the thing is that he could not able to do a lot of things because it requires to get the penicillin mold you need thousands of liters of things he required. So he took the help of Howard, another German guy, Ernest Chain, and then Howard Foley from Australia is an international collaboration. They're extracting penicillin from the mold of the penicillin. Is a thousands of liters. You got to have a lot of big cages. You need a big bottles of the penicillin mold to require. So actually, unfortunately, they could not even get enough for this patient. He got the treated. Actually, it went down. Infection went down, but they don't have enough dosage for him. They took his urine and then they extracted the penicillin and then give him back, but still it didn't work. It's not enough for him, and he died immediately. Within a month, he died. So that is their daughter and granddaughters. They were Sheila LeBlanc. She was, after he died, Sheila LeBlanc. She's from England, London. She moved from there to California, married a veteran, army officer, and she moved here, and then she has two children. I spoke with one of the. I told her to come down on the Today Show, but she had a different show, so she could not able to come. But
Mm.
but but these are all the family history. There is a lot of history there. So they were invited. The World Congress in the Glasgow. They invited her and her children to attend the World Congress of Basic Clinical Pharmacology, actually. So that's a great honor for her. So
Mm.
she's 92 years old. So that is Albert Alexander. But the penicillin, the penicillin, why they could not get enough of them? You need a lots of penicillin more. The reason you cannot put the synthetic penicillin, because we don't know the structure of the penicillin. Anna is a biochemist. I don't know much about chemistry, but structure doesn't. They don't know the structure. So, and also there are some negative reactions there, allergic reactions. Some people can die with the penicillin. My father was a doctor, and he used to give me penicillin. He used to watch for me that any negative reactions there. There is a GI problem, gastrointestinal problems are
Mm.
there with this penicillin. There are some side effects. Sometimes they can be serious, fatal. So what it means, we don't know the structure. We cannot produce the no structure, no synthetic drugs. We cannot mass produce the drug. So we do not know. For that, there is an extraordinary woman was born. For that, her name is Dorothy Mary Crawford. Crawford, you know, she was born in England, London, actually London. Sorry, I made a mistake. She was born in Egypt, Cairo. She was a British diplomat's daughter. So they are. She was a mother. Father is a archaeologist. Mother is a botanist. Very educated family. So they moved. She moved. She was working in a. They're working in Egypt, Cairo, Cairo, Egypt, and she was born in Cairo, Egypt. So Dorothy Mary Crawford was born in Cairo, Egypt. So that story is very relevant here. I'm going to tell you. So she is international. She is a global wanderer already. Dorothy was formative years. She spent time in. She was born in Cairo, Egypt, and then she went to school in England. I don't know what the Sir John Lemon School is. Maybe Yana knows.
No, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's a grammar school. That's what I heard. And then she went back and spent a lot of time in Sudan. They did. She was traveling quite a bit in Africa. She has a lot of Africa connections there. So she got a PhD in chemistry. She was always with the growing up with her mother. She was interested in the church mosaics, crystals. She was studying a lot of crystals with the church. I didn't know that is a big thing about huge debates and talk about the crystals in the churches. I didn't know that.
Mm.
I'm not a Christian, but so I don't. So during the same time, her mother gave her a book. It's called X-ray crystallography, a book written by two father and a son. They are written by Bragg's brothers, James Braggs and his son. They discovered they invented the X-ray crystallography. X-rays, you see in the medical office, you see X-ray. It is actually you see it cannot penetrate to the bones, soft tissue. It goes through and it creates the shadow in the behind, right? It is a direct X-ray. So but the X-rays are not direct. That's what the main X-ray goes through the body and then goes there. But there is a
Mm.
lot of scattering happens. They In the medical office we ignore the scattering, but here what they did was they collected the scattering to figure out the structure of the elements. So they first time they released the structure of the salt, the atomic structure, where the atoms are. NaCl is where the chlorine atom, where the sodium atom. All of them are. They gave a complete picture of the through X-ray crystallography. In 1940s, X-ray crystallography is the biggest talk, the state-of-the-art thing. So X-ray crystal. Dorothy came up with a brilliant idea. What she thought was, she makes this penicillin into crystal and see the structure of the penicillin. That's what she did. What she did was, Yana can tell probably, they put alcohol, through the osmosis, they make the penicillin into crystal. I don't know the whole complete
Can't
process.
can't say I've done X-ray crystallography myself, but that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They make a crystal, and penicillin crystals are there right on the right side. You see. So she did the crystals first. So she wants to find out what is the combination of the atomic structure of the. So eventually, with a lot of hard work, it's not easy, my friends. It is a lot with the hard work. She found out. She first came out the penicillin structure.
Mm.
Amazing. That is one of the best thing in the world that she came up with. That changed the world itself. So a woman, what happened was there is a ring, let's call it, lactum ring is there. That ring is very. They didn't know that at the time. She confirmed that there is a ring up there. That ring is a weak ring in the penicillin, because even though it's a weak ring, one of the thing is that weakness really helps us, because that penicillin weak ring, what it does is it one of the characteristics of the weak ring, the weak point of that penicillin, destroys the wall cells, bacterial pathogen cells, cell walls.
Mm.
So bacteria cannot form. They're suicidal. Bacteria they become suicidal before they're forming a wall around them. So that's what penicillin does. They understood the mechanism, they understood the structure. She gave world a huge, beautiful blessing. What that blessing did that? You see, millions of children it saved. Amoxicillin was born because of that. Because of that, she found out that is amoxicillin has a very different properties than only penicillin G was a gram positive. It's a broad spectrum antibiotic. Amoxicillin is a gram positive. They can change the chain, the ring around it, the chain a little bit, modify the chain. They made it a gram positive and negative, which is a broad spectrum antibiotic. Absor- Penicillin G in the stomach, a lot of acids eat that out in the stomach acids, so the absorption is low. But in the absorption is very high in the amoxicillin is a, for the in the blood. So high frequency dosing, you need a lot of times. You got to take that medicine 3 times a day, 4 times a day. That's kind of things. In the amoxicillin, you need a less doses. High GI problems are reduced, the gastrointestinal problems are reduced. So side effects are gone. Amoxicillin was born. Millions of kids were loved that pink liquid they eat, they drink. It is because of the Dorothy. Dorothy. She got married, and then she got the last name Hodgkin. She married I think a preacher. But Dorothy, there's actually London released a postal stamp on her, Dorothy Hodgkin, in 1945, exploring the right hand side that is placed in the British Science Museum. It was displayed in the British Science Museum on the right side one. And that is in Oxford actually. History of Science Museum. You should visit that, Anna.
Mm. I believe I have been once.
Yeah. So Dorothy is on roll. She is a scientific mind. She has. She invented the vitamin B12 structure. After that, vitamin B12 is a very important vitamin, because red blood cells, in mood regulations and bone health, all of them are depending on the B12. My father used to give me B12 complex when I get sick. All the times my father used to give me B12 complex injection. I remember it's very painful though. So,
Mm.
so actually, it's millions of people she saved with the indirectly. She gave you can synthetically produce the B12. So came up with a B12 structure. The first one to give her. She didn't stop there. She did structure of the steroids. The cholesterol deposits in the steroids. They can do that cholesterol iodide. She gave the structure of the steroids. That's very important, right? That's why you got injections. If you have a whooping cough or something, you can get the steroids, those things. Then she did a monumental achievement. She did the insulin structure. It's called protein. It's an insulin hormone. She gave the structure. People don't know this. She is the one who gave the insulin structure. Actually, insulin find out through X-ray crystallography, give the insulin structure, so you can produce a lot synthetically diabetic drugs. So she won she deserves all the Nobel, everyone deserves a Nobel Prize. But she
Mm.
got the Nobel Prize for B12 structure in 1964. She was awarded Nobel Prize in vitamin B12 for vitamin B12.
The first British woman I understand to
Yeah,
win a science Nobel Prize.
Nobel Prize. Really?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think she deserves all the four Nobel Prizes. Yeah, she what she did was, so she's an amazing woman. So Rosalind Franklin is a very fan of Anna is a fan of Rosalind Franklin. She did the X-ray. She was younger than Hodgkin, Dorothy Hodgkin. So she went there after producing this double helix in the DNA. She went to actually Dorothy to
Mm.
validate her experiment. So Dorothy guided her, the Rosalind Franklin. So they are kind of a one of the extraordinary women of science in from England and world itself. Yeah. So that Dorothy was a professor for the Margaret Thatcher. And Margaret Thatcher is a scientist. I didn't know that she studied science. Chemistry professor for Margaret Thatcher. Margaret Thatcher was studying under the um, uh, under Dorothy. Even though they're politically, ideologically, they're different. Dorothy, she said that at the death time, Dorothy Hodgkin was a towering figure in the British science. Margaret Thatcher, Prime Minister, gave her. She actually was hanging her photo, her painting in her office, even though they're two different parties. In
Mm.
fact, he was criticizing Margaret Thatcher, but extraordinary woman of science. So that is the so Venki Ramakrishnan is actually, he is. I had a conversation I mean, I had a interaction with him on the online. He sent me an email about her. Yeah, she was talking about her. In fact, I invited him for my podcast one time. Yeah. So Venki, sorry about that. This is Venki Ramakrishnan is a former president of Royal Society. That what he did was um, uh, just let me just tell me. Sorry about that. Is something is going on here? Okay. Anyway, I am in awe. Venki Ramakrishnan said that I'm in awe with the limited resources, the things she did. Dorothy Hodgkin with her things. She just on a roll. She invented, discovered so many things. She's a mother of structural biology, mother of synthetic drugs. In my view, I would call her mother of synthetic drugs. He said that in her memorial lecture. I'm in awe with her. It says with the limited resources, she produced a monumental work. So she is a she is a love of Africa. She actually, when she got the Nobel Prize, she was in Ghana in Africa. That's where you come to know she won the Nobel Prize. She was
Mm.
Egypt, Sudan, Ghana. She spent years and years together. In the 1994, 84 years old, she died there. She died. She lived a long life. Mother of structural biology. But what she saved is millions of lives. She discovered the penicillin structure, cholesterol structure, B12, and insulin. She really opened the world. Unsung hero of medicine, a trailblazer. We under recognized. I think I want to bring her to the front lines of the science, and with people like Anna also. We need to bring them. The next future scientist is right there. Anna Blewden itself. So thank you for watching. Let me bring her to the. Okay, Anna, welcome. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've spent too long outside of academia to possibly consider a return, but thank you anyway. Yeah, I mean, she's a terrific woman, and like you said, she's an unsung hero. I feel like someone ought to make a game about her, really.
Yeah, I think you should make a game. Yeah, that is the one thing. That's a story that you need to do that.
It's,
Somebody can give you the funding for that.
yeah.
No, let me. I don't know. Let me give you that. What is your Give me your little bit of your. Let me do that for you. What is your email address? You want to give email address, Anna, or
Mm,
edit? I will put some web.
yeah.
You
Well, my Games of DNA email is just Anna at gamesofdna.com.
okay?
So yeah,
Yeah,
any kind of interesting ideas for potential science-related games and storytelling is right up my street. But
yeah.
I particularly like the idea of kind of shining a light onto these people who have been not exactly forgotten by history, but maybe just not as celebrated as you'd expect.
Yeah, we shouldn't. I mean, people forget. We don't aims with. I think that's what I did. Correct with that? Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. Thanks.
Okay, good. Anna, tell us. So, what do you look? What you need some funding, and what else you need? What are the things you
Yeah, give me
need?
money.
I'm
No.
not getting, but unfortunately,
Yeah,
uh,
it's I mean the games industry is in a bit of a tricky state at the moment. It's sort of multiple reasons why, AI being one of them, as we talked about earlier, but also just overinvestment during the pandemic when everyone was furloughed off work, working from home, gaming more. So all of these companies invested more into expanding their teams and making more games. And now we're seeing that side of people going back to work, and not as many people are buying and playing games as they were. So yeah, I mean, when you make a game, you can always do it in a, like, you can self-publish. You don't necessarily need upfront investment or funding to make a game, but for the development costs and also the marketing, the publishing side of it, often there is a big investment required to make that happen.
there is, but there is another opportunity in a way. I was talking with the former CEO of Kaiser Permanente, one of the largest health insurance company in this country, health
Mm,
system in this country. He was telling that health education must change here. Medical education is old fashioned. You need to use a lot of this gaming kind of future of education is a gaming. You learn the choices you make.
mm,
If you do wrong way, the invention, what it goes, what can go wrong, what can go
mm,
right. Those kind of gaming would be that tree decision making would be really good in the future. I think gaming will come back in a different way.
mm.
Educational sector may be much more open to
Yeah,
that. So
definitely. It's
yeah.
such an effective way of engaging, especially kids, when attention spans are just getting worse and worse with social media and smartphones. But being able to engage with a story by actually being placed in it, and having that kind of sense of agency and decision making can, I think, really help with yeah, telling ideas to kids and helping them to engage.
So yeah, this romantic story you're building, how do you? What are the people target audience for you? Who are the target audience?
Yeah, well,
Any young
because
girls, young boys that
yeah, I mean, it's because it's more than just a romance game. It's got the sort of action adventure stuff, also the mystery in the Wild West. It does appeal to a very broad audience, but like you say, you've got to narrow it down. So I think that the sort of the primary audience is a female demographic, because they tend to be the ones who play these games about romance, and it's very sort of story driven games. But then there's also I mean, there's three romanceable options of the characters. So there's two men and one woman. So anyone of any gender and any sexuality can play this game and enjoy it. So yeah, wouldn't let the demographic be the
yeah.
decider if you don't fit into that. Still playing
Yeah,
the game.
I rarely meet your the appearance and you're extraordinarily qualified woman. Yeah, you went to good schools and you did a biochemistry science, then you did a master's in VR programming. Very odd selections you did. Very interesting interdisciplinary field. I love that kind of a backgrounds. That when my nephew was studying, I used to encourage him to do medical software. So it's like a new things that is really. Where do you think? I want to ask you, where do you think the AR and VR, the future of the VR and AR?
Mm. Um, I mean, I'm particularly interested in the future of AR. I think there's something quite dystopian about the idea of spending the rest of our lives in a headset without seeing the real world around us. So I like to think that AR is the future of engaging a bit more with your environment rather than just replacing it. But I think there's so many things that both forms can be used for, like training. Yeah, speaking of like medical training, obviously surgery is something that really benefits from a VR approach, because you can learn and you can practice in VR without needing to use a real body for experimenting. So there's certainly tons of applications, but who knows where it's going to go next. I think it's a matter of
There is
yeah,
a
seeing all these smart people in Silicon Valley and where they want to take it.
what are the now there is a lot of gory kind of games, a lot of blood, a lot of things, violence.
Mm,
Is that creating a lot of jittery, and mothers are worried about the kids? So what do you think of that you're creating a romantic game, that's a great thing, but most of these things are that basically violence and killing and a lot of blood. And what do
mm,
you think of that direction? It's easy to trap the people for that, but
mm.
some kind of a regulation, or what do you think of that, the future of that? The very serious concern, right?
Yeah, I mean, depends how you look at it. I mean, my game will also have a lot of killing and blood and violence in it. Doesn't mean just because it's romance doesn't mean there's none of that. But I think that's an age-old discussion, right? Even when it comes to like Tarantino films and people saying, is does he glorify violence and does it make kids grow up to think that violence is okay? I think I think with games it's a bit harder to tell, because when you're encouraging like kids, for example, to play a character where they just shoot a bunch of people, you might be subconsciously telling them that that's okay, and switching off that kind of um, part of their brain that knows that it's wrong because it's fun in this case. So I think maybe there is some room for regulation, but
But there is a huge benefit. I tell you, one benefit I can tell is that old people, that they cannot travel anymore, immobile people,
mm,
they have wheelchairs, that people that VR and AR can substitute and give them such a pleasure, really create a simulated experience as real, right?
yeah, palliative care, I suppose, has a whole there's a whole opportunity there for VR, as well as, like you said, sort of traveling when you're not able to travel, and be in a room with someone who is also wearing a VR headset, for example. It can bring two people together in a way that might not be possible physically.
When are you? So, anyway, it's a wonderful talking with you, Yana. You're really a gem of a person, uh,
Thank you.
educated, smart, beautiful. You have all the combinations. The Silicon Valley is going to love you. You need to come down and participate in the. I'm going to introduce you some people for you. I'm glad that you would shine here. I think you people like you we require not the making people with the noises. I want people with a substantial background, really talking about things. Like
Mm,
you came back with a stellar background. That is the people we need here. A lot of noises and off qualified people are running. But Yana, it is a truly an honor. You ever want to say anything in final words? Want to say?
just thank you very much. I mean, we always last time we spoke, we obviously had very interesting conversations as well. So I just thank you for giving me the chance to talk about all this interesting stuff. And
I
yeah,
hope
great
you
to be here.
do scientific games for us.
Yes,
Scientific games is
I'd
going to
love
be,
to.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's going to be the. Thank you so much. Stay with me for a couple of
yeah,
minutes
sure.
after the podcast, and then thank you so much. Good night, all of you.